The night was a canvas of violent electricity, a tempestuous overture in the small Croatian village of Smiljan in the heart of the Balkans. It was July, the year 1856. Lightning, fierce and untamed, clawed at the sky, striking the earth with primordial fury as if the heavens themselves were in labor. And indeed they were. For in the midst of this celestial drama, Juka and Milutin Tesla welcomed their fourth child into the world. Legend whispers that the midwife, unnerved by the storm's ferocity, declared him a child of darkness. But Juka, a woman of keen intellect and unyielding spirit despite her inability to read or write, countered with a conviction that would echo through time. No, he will be a child of light. And so Nikola Tesla was born, destined to illuminate the world, to chase away the shadows with the brilliance of his mind. His father Milutin was a man of the cloth, an orthodox priest, learned and disciplined. He envisioned a similar path for his son, a life dedicated to spiritual service. But young Nikola's spirit yearned for a different kind of altar, the altar of science. It was from his mother, Juka, that he inherited the spark of invention, the innate ability to conjure solutions from the ether. She was a marvel of practical ingenuity, crafting tools and household devices with an almost magical touch, her hands guided by an untaught genius. Nikola, even as a boy, possessed an extraordinary gift, a mind that could visualize machines in intricate, three-dimensional detail, seeing them operate with perfect clarity before a single piece of metal was ever shaped. This eidetic memory, this power of vivid mental projection, would become the bedrock of his revolutionary contributions to science and technology. His childhood unfolded amidst the raw beauty of the Lika region, a playground of forests, rivers, and mountains. He was a curious and inventive child, fashioning his own water wheels that danced in the streams, kites that soared on the Balkan winds, and rudimentary motors born of pure imagination. Yet this idyllic period was also scarred by profound tragedy. His older brother, Dane, the family's shining star, gifted and adored, was lost in a riding accident. Nikola, a mere child, was devastated. The loss carved a deep wound in his young psyche, perhaps instilling in him a quiet, desperate drive to fill the void Dane left, to achieve a greatness that might somehow compensate for the unbearable absence. It was during these formative years that the vivid images, the flashes of light, and the almost hallucinatory visions that would accompany him throughout his life began to intensify, blurring the lines between the tangible world and the luminous landscapes of his mind. School was where Nikola's prodigious intellect first truly blazed. Mathematics and physics were his natural domains. He could perform complex integral calculus in his head, leaving his teachers both astounded and occasionally suspicious. Yet his father's dream of a priestly life for him persisted, a source of quiet tension in the household. Nikola's heart, however, was set on engineering, on understanding and harnessing the mysterious forces of nature. The impasse was broken by a cruel twist of fate. At 17, on the cusp of adulthood, he was struck down by cholera, a scourge that ravaged communities with terrifying speed. For 9 agonizing months, he lay bedridden, hovering between life and death. Witnessing his son's desperate struggle, Milutin's resolve softened. In a moment of profound paternal love and fear, he promised Nikola that if he recovered, he would be allowed to pursue his engineering dreams. It was as if this promise breathed new life into the boy. Nikola rallied, his will to live rekindled by the vision of a future he could finally claim as his own. He enrolled at the Austrian Polytechnic School in Graz, his mind now laser-focused on the enigmatic world of electricity. This was the era of direct current, or DC, the domain of the burgeoning titan Thomas Edison, whose incandescent light bulb was beginning to cast its glow across cities. But Tesla, with his incisive mind, was troubled by the inherent inefficiencies of DC motors, by the sparking commutators and brushes that wasted energy and required constant maintenance. His thoughts drifted towards a different kind of current, an alternating current, or AC. When he broached this radical idea to his professors, he was met with skepticism, even ridicule. "Mr. Tesla," one professor famously declared, "you may achieve great things, but you will never do this. It is like trying to build a perpetual motion machine." But in Tesla's mind, the AC motor was already spinning, its design unfolding with an almost preternatural clarity. After Graz, his path was not straight. He audited lectures at the Charles Ferdinand University in Prague, absorbing knowledge like a sponge. He then found himself in Budapest in 1881, working for the new telephone exchange. It was here, during a stroll through a city park with a friend, Antal Scheijti, reciting verses from Goethe's Faust, that the epiphany struck. As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and violet, a vision of unparalleled brilliance illuminated his mind. The principle of the rotating magnetic field, the key to a brushless, commutatorless AC induction motor, materialized before him, complete in every detail. The idea came like a flash of lightning, he would later recall, and in an instant the truth was revealed. I drew with a stick in the sand the diagrams which were illustrated in my lecture before the American Institute of Electrical Engineers. He had found his destiny. Armed with this revolutionary concept, he sought to bring it to life in Europe. He worked for the Continental Edison Company in Paris, improving their DC dynamos, even traveling to Strasbourg to fix a problematic power plant. He demonstrated his AC motor concept, but the support he needed, the visionaries who could grasp its transformative potential, remained elusive. And so he set his sights on the New World, on America, the land of opportunity, the domain of the great Edison himself. In 1884, with little more than 4 cents in his pocket, a book of his own poetry, some calculations, and a letter of introduction from Charles Batchelor, a former associate of Edison, to the man himself, Nikola Tesla, arrived in New York. The letter purportedly read, "My dear Edison, I know 2 great men and you are one of them, the other is this young man." Edison, the pragmatic wizard of Menlo Park, was at the zenith of his DC empire. Tesla, the young, visionary immigrant, was quickly put to work at the Edison Machine Works. His brilliance was undeniable. He toiled tirelessly, often through the night, redesigning Edison's inefficient DC dynamos, making significant improvements. Edison, impressed but perhaps also a little wary of this intense young man, allegedly offered him $50,000, a king's ransom at the time, if he could solve some particularly vexing problems with the DC generators. Tesla, driven by the challenge and the promise, poured his genius into the task and succeeded spectacularly. When he went to claim his reward, Edison, with a dismissive chuckle, replied, "Tesla, you don't understand our American humor." For Tesla, this was more than a broken promise about money. It was a betrayal of trust, a fundamental misunderstanding of his character and the seriousness of his work. He had also requested a raise from $18 to $25 a week, which was refused. The rift was immediate and irreparable. Nikola Tesla resigned, stepping out from the shadow of the established giant, ready to forge his own path, however arduous it might be. Life, however, had more trials in store for the aspiring inventor. His initial attempts to form his own company, the Tesla Electric Light and Manufacturing, faltered. His investors were more interested in arc lighting for streets than in his revolutionary AC motor concepts. They eventually squeezed him out, leaving him penniless. For a period in 1886 and 1887, the man whose mind danced with lightning found himself digging ditches for $2 a day to survive, the irony a bitter pill to swallow. He later recounted this period as one of terrible hardship and terrible headaches and heartaches. Yet even in the depths of this despair, the dream of his AC system, of a world powered by efficient, abundant electricity, burned brightly within him, a defiant flame against the darkness of his circumstances. Then, as if by a turn of a cosmic wheel, fortune smiled. Alfred S. Brown, a superintendent at Western Union, and Charles F. Peck, a New York attorney, recognized the immense potential in Tesla's AC motor. In April 1887, they agreed to back him, forming the Tesla Electric Company. Finally, Tesla had his own laboratory, a sanctuary on South Fifth Avenue where his ideas could take tangible form. It was here that he perfected his polyphase AC induction motors, generators, and transformers. He filed for a series of groundbreaking patents, more than 30 of them in 1887 and 1888, laying the foundation for the modern alternating current system. These were not just inventions, they were the keystones of a new electrical age. Tesla's burgeoning success and the revolutionary nature of his AC system soon attracted the attention of another towering figure in the burgeoning electrical industry, George Westinghouse. Westinghouse, an inventor and industrialist himself, had made his fortune with the railway air brake and was looking for a way to compete with Edison's DC monopoly. Tesla's AC system, with its ability to transmit power efficiently over long distances, was precisely what he needed. In July 1888, Westinghouse made Tesla a generous offer, $60,000 in cash and stock, plus a royalty of $2.50 per horsepower for each AC motor produced. Tesla accepted, and also took a position as a consultant at Westinghouse's Pittsburgh labs. This alliance marked the true beginning of the War of Currents, an epic industrial and intellectual battle that would decide the future of electricity. Edison, fiercely protective of his DC empire, launched a vicious and often unscrupulous propaganda campaign against alternating current. He portrayed AC as dangerously unstable, a lethal force unfit for public use. His cohorts staged public demonstrations, electrocuting stray dogs, cats, and even notoriously Topsy the elephant, with AC, all to horrify the public and discredit Westinghouse and Tesla. Edison even tacitly supported the development of the electric chair, powered by AC, as a gruesome testament to its supposed deadliness. The press was filled with dire warnings and sensationalized stories, a concerted effort to paint AC as the executioner's current. Tesla, though more of a pure scientist than a showman like Edison, was not one to shrink from a fight when his vision was at stake. He countered with his own dazzling demonstrations. At lectures before esteemed scientific bodies and in his own lab, he would allow tens of thousands, even hundreds of thousands, of volts of high-frequency alternating current to flow harmlessly across the surface of his body, lighting up wirelessly held Jassler tubes in his hands, his form wreathed in an ethereal blue corona. These weren't just displays of scientific principle, they were acts of profound faith in his own creations, designed to captivate and reassure. This was not merely a technological skirmish, it was a clash of titans, a battle for the very soul of the electrical future. Edison represented the established order, the tangible present, Tesla the audacious, electrifying future. The turning point in this bitter war came with the 1893 World's Columbian Exposition in Chicago. The contract to illuminate this grand fair, a showcase of human achievement, became a fierce bidding war between General Electric, which had absorbed Edison's company, and Westinghouse. Westinghouse, armed with Tesla's far more efficient and cost-effective AC system, dramatically underbid General Electric and won the contract. When night fell over the White City, as the fair was known, it was Tesla's polyphase alternating current that brought it to life, powering 250,000 incandescent light bulbs, bathing the neoclassical buildings in a magical, unprecedented glow. Millions of visitors witnessed the triumph of AC, its beauty, its power, its safety. It was a resounding public victory, a spectacle that announced to the world that AC was not just viable, but superior. Hot on the heels of this triumph came another monumental project, harnessing the raw, untamed power of Niagara Falls to generate electricity. For years, visionaries had dreamed of tapping this natural wonder, but the question of how to transmit that power efficiently to distant cities like Buffalo remained. Once again, the titans clashed, DC versus AC. And once again, Tesla's AC system, championed by Westinghouse, prevailed. In 1895, the Adams Power Plant at Niagara Falls began sending three-phase alternating current to Buffalo, over 20 miles away, heralding the dawn of large-scale hydroelectric power and the modern electrical grid. The war of currents was effectively over. Tesla had won. But for a mind like his, one victory was merely a stepping stone. His gaze was already fixed on horizons even more distant, on dreams even more audacious. The wireless transmission of not just information, but energy itself across the globe. Radio, robotics, remote control, cosmic rays, these were the new territories his intellect was poised to explore. The maestro was just beginning to compose his grandest symphonies of light and power. The victory at Niagara Falls was more than just an engineering marvel. It was a symphony of human ingenuity, a testament to Nikola Tesla's unwavering vision. The hum of alternating current, now coursing through the veins of a nascent industrial America, was the sound of his triumph. His name, once whispered with a mix of awe and skepticism, was now on the lips of industrialists, scientists, and the common man alike. He was the sorcerer who had tamed lightning, the Promethean figure who had gifted humanity a new kind of fire. Yet, for Tesla, this monumental achievement was not an end, but a magnificent overture to an even grander composition he yearned to conduct. The world might have been content with wired electricity, but Tesla's mind was already soaring beyond the confines of copper cables, dreaming of a world unbound, a world where power, like the very air we breathe, could be accessed by anyone, anywhere, wirelessly. But even in triumph, shadows lingered. The war of currents had been a costly affair, not just in reputation for Edison, but in treasure for George Westinghouse. His company, though victorious, was financially strained, teetering on the brink. Bankers, ever cautious, grew uneasy. They pressured Westinghouse to renegotiate the generous royalty agreement he had made with Tesla, that $2.50 per horsepower for every AC motor. It was a sum that, with the burgeoning success of AC, promised Tesla unimaginable wealth, potentially making him one of the richest men in the world. Westinghouse, an honorable man caught in a difficult position, laid bare the situation to Tesla. He explained that the company's survival, and indeed the future of the AC system they had fought so hard for, depended on alleviating this financial burden. What happened next is a testament to Tesla's character, a moment that defines his complex relationship with money and his unwavering dedication to his scientific ideals. Faced with the potential collapse of the very system he had birthed, Tesla, without a moment's hesitation, took his contract, the document that promised him a fortune, and tore it into pieces. "Mr. Westinghouse," he reportedly said, "you have been my friend, you believed in me when others did not, you have stood by me through thick and thin. You will save your company. Here is your contract and here is my royalty, they are yours." With that single, dramatic gesture, Tesla relinquished billions in today's currency. For him, the propagation of his ideas, the advancement of science for humanity, was a currency far more valuable than dollars and cents. It was an act of extraordinary generosity, perhaps naivety, but it undeniably saved Westinghouse Electric and secured the future of alternating current. It also, however, set a pattern for Tesla's future financial struggles, his genius often unmoored from the practicalities of commerce. With the AC wars largely behind him, and his financial future now far less secure but his scientific reputation soaring, Tesla immersed himself in the electrifying atmosphere of his New York laboratories, first on South Fifth Avenue, then on Houston Street. These were not mere workshops. They were temples of invention, cauldrons of discovery, where the very air crackled with high-frequency, high-voltage energies. It was here that he perfected one of his most iconic inventions, the Tesla coil. This resonant transformer circuit, capable of producing astonishingly high voltages at high frequencies, was a key to unlocking the secrets of wireless transmission. In his hands, the Tesla coil became an instrument of wonder. He would stand in his darkened laboratory, a tall, almost ethereal figure, and conjure miniature lightning storms. Sparks feet in length would erupt from the coil, a dazzling man-made aurora. He would hold gas-filled tubes unconnected to any wires, and they would blaze with brilliant light, illuminated by the ambient energy field he created. These were not just experiments, they were performances, a fusion of science and artistry designed to astound and inspire. He understood the power of spectacle, the need to capture the public imagination, to show them the tangible magic of his unseen forces. His investigations into high-frequency phenomena led him down many fascinating paths. When Wilhelm Conrad Röntgen announced his discovery of X-rays in late 1895, Tesla was not entirely surprised. He had in fact been unknowingly producing X-ray images in his own laboratory for years, noticing fogging on photographic plates near his high-voltage experiments. He had even warned of the potential biological hazards of these invisible radiations. Upon Röntgen's announcement, Tesla quickly replicated the experiments and even improved upon them, designing his own vacuum tubes that produced clearer and more powerful X-ray images, which he called shadowgraphs. He took some of the first X-ray photographs in America, including images of his own hand and foot, and even one of Mark Twain. He foresaw their immense medical potential, a diagnostic window into the human body. But it was the dream of wirelessness that truly consumed him. Not just wireless communication, but the wireless transmission of power on a global scale. As a crucial step towards this grand vision, he explored the realm of radio waves. Years before Guglielmo Marconi would famously send a wireless signal across the Atlantic and be hailed as the father of radio, Tesla was laying the fundamental groundwork. He had developed all the essential components: oscillators to create the radio waves, resonant circuits for tuning, and detectors to receive them. In 1897, he filed patents that clearly described the principles of radio transmission and reception, patents that would later be at the heart of lengthy legal battles with Marconi. And to demonstrate the practical application of his wireless principles, he staged one of his most captivating public displays. In 1898, at an electrical exhibition in Madison Square Garden, a place more accustomed to circuses and boxing matches, Tesla unveiled his teleautomaton. It was a small, iron-hulled boat floating in a tank of water that he could control remotely using radio waves. With a small control box, he made the boat move forwards, backwards, turn left and right, and even flash its lights, all without any visible connection. The crowd was dumbfounded, mesmerized. Some whispered of magic, others of trickery, a few even accused him of having a trained monkey hidden inside. Tesla, ever the showman, patiently explained that the boat was guided by intelligent radio waves, a borrowed mind. This was not just a toy, it was the birth of remote control, a pioneering step towards robotics and drone technology. A tangible glimpse into a future where machines could be directed from afar, guided by invisible threads of energy and information. He envisioned fleets of such teleautomatons, performing dangerous tasks, delivering goods, even fighting wars, all controlled by human operators at a safe distance. His fame grew, but so did his mystique. He became a figure of fascination in New York society, a regular at the opulent Waldorf Astoria hotel where he eventually took up residence. He cut a striking figure, tall, impeccably dressed, with piercing blue eyes and an aristocratic bearing. He dined with the city's elite writers like Mark Twain, architects like Stanford White, financiers, and actresses. Yet despite this social life, he remained a profoundly solitary individual, dedicated to his work with an almost monastic zeal. He never married, believing it would interfere with his scientific pursuits. His habits became legendary. His obsession with cleanliness, his specific routines, his peculiar phobias — he detested pearl earrings and round objects — and his almost supernatural sensitivity to sensory stimuli. He claimed to be able to hear thunder hundreds of miles away and feel the vibrations of the city through the soles of his feet. These eccentricities, combined with his dazzling public demonstrations, contributed to his image as a modern-day Merlin, a scientific sorcerer capable of incredible feats. But beneath the public persona was a mind relentlessly grappling with the universe's deepest secrets. He wasn't just an inventor of gadgets. He was a philosopher of energy, a visionary who saw the Earth itself as a vast resonant body, capable of conducting electrical currents. He believed that the ionosphere, that electrically charged layer high in the atmosphere, could be used as a medium for transmitting power globally. Imagine, he urged, a world without the need for cumbersome power lines, where energy was as freely available as sunlight. Factories in remote deserts, homes in isolated villages, ships at sea, all could tap into this inexhaustible reservoir. This was not just about convenience. For Tesla, it was about democratizing energy, about uplifting humanity, about creating a more equitable and interconnected world. This grand, almost utopian vision required a new kind of laboratory, a place far from the electrical interference and spatial constraints of New York City. He needed a place where he could build on a truly monumental scale, where he could experiment with voltages and frequencies that would dwarf anything he had attempted before. He needed to test his theories about terrestrial stationary waves, the idea that he could send electrical pulses through the Earth itself, causing it to resonate like a giant tuning fork. His gaze turned westward, towards the high, arid plains of Colorado, where the thin air and frequent electrical storms offered an ideal, if somewhat intimidating, environment for the next, audacious phase of his electrifying journey. The stage was being set for an experiment of unprecedented ambition, one that would push the boundaries of known science and bring Tesla closer than ever to his dream of lighting up the world wirelessly. The year was 1899. As the 19th century drew to its electrifying close, Nikola Tesla, fueled by an unshakable belief in his theories of wireless power, embarked on a daring new chapter. His destination, Colorado Springs, a small town nestled at the foot of Pikes Peak, over 6,000 feet above sea level. This remote, high-altitude location was not chosen by chance. The thin, dry air was ideal for high-voltage experiments, minimizing electrical leakage and allowing for more spectacular discharges. Furthermore, the region was notorious for its ferocious electrical storms, a natural laboratory where Tesla could observe and, he hoped, eventually harness the very power of lightning. He had secured funding from John Jacob Astor IV, one of the wealthiest men in America, and a man who would later perish on the Titanic, to build an experimental station dedicated to perfecting wireless telegraphy and, more ambitiously, exploring the feasibility of global wireless power transmission. Upon arrival, Tesla, with his characteristic intensity and meticulous planning, set about constructing a laboratory unlike any the world had seen. It was a large, barn-like wooden structure, but its most prominent feature was a towering 200-foot metal mast topped with a large copper sphere. Inside, the centerpiece was a colossal Tesla coil, the largest he had ever built, a monstrous 52 feet in diameter. This magnifying transmitter, as he called it, was designed to generate millions of volts and create electrical oscillations of immense power. His small team of assistants, often bewildered but always loyal, worked tirelessly to bring his complex designs to life. The local residents of Colorado Springs watched with a mixture of curiosity, awe, and no small amount of trepidation as this strange, otherworldly structure rose on the prairie. Once the laboratory was operational, the experiments began, and they were nothing short of spectacular, bordering on the terrifying. When Tesla activated his magnifying transmitter, the air around the laboratory would crackle and hum with an almost palpable energy. Man-made lightning bolts, some exceeding 100 feet in length, would erupt from the copper sphere atop the mast, splitting the night sky with their dazzling, deafening fury, momentarily eclipsing the natural lightning that often danced around Pike's Peak. The ground beneath the laboratory would thrum with the immense power being unleashed. He was, in essence, attempting to make the Earth itself resonate, to turn the entire planet into a gigantic conductor. During these experiments, he claimed to have detected stationary waves within the Earth, generated by his transmitter. He believed these waves could be used to send electrical energy to any point on the globe with minimal loss. He described how, by carefully tuning his apparatus, he could create resonant effects at great distances. In one famous, though perhaps apocryphal, account, he claimed to have lit 200 incandescent lamps wirelessly at a distance of 26 miles, powered solely by the energy transmitted through the ground and the atmosphere from his Colorado Springs station. While the veracity of some of these claims remains debated, there is no doubt that he was achieving electrical effects of an unprecedented scale. The power he was wielding was immense, and occasionally uncontrollable. In one particularly dramatic incident, while attempting to generate the most powerful electrical discharge possible, he overloaded the Colorado Springs Electric Company's generator, plunging the entire town into darkness. The local power company, understandably alarmed, refused to supply him with more electricity until he could guarantee he wouldn't repeat the performance. Tesla, ever resourceful, reportedly built his own power generation system to continue his work. But his time in Colorado Springs was not solely about creating artificial lightning. He was also deeply engaged in observing natural atmospheric electricity. He built sensitive receiving equipment to study the patterns of lightning strikes, believing that the Earth itself possessed a natural electrical charge that fluctuated. He even claimed, controversially, to have detected coherent signals emanating from space, speculating that they might be attempts at communication from intelligent beings on Mars or Venus. He announced these interplanetary communications to a largely skeptical press, further cementing his reputation in some quarters as a brilliant, but perhaps eccentric visionary. While modern science has not validated these specific claims of alien signals, his work with sensitive radio receivers was undoubtedly pushing the boundaries of what was then possible in detecting faint electromagnetic disturbances. For 9 intense months, from May 1899 to early 1900, Tesla lived and breathed his experiments in Colorado Springs. He kept meticulous diaries, filled with observations, calculations, and sketches, a testament to his rigorous scientific method, even amidst the most outlandish-seeming endeavors. He worked with feverish intensity, often sleeping only a few hours a night, his mind consumed by the possibilities that seemed to shimmer just beyond his grasp. He was convinced he was on the verge of a breakthrough that would revolutionize human civilization, a breakthrough that would make energy free and abundant for all. However, the financial wellspring from John Jacob's store eventually ran dry. The store had invested in wireless telegraphy, hoping for a quick commercial return, but Tesla's grander vision of global wireless power was a far more speculative and long-term endeavor. With funds depleted and his immediate objectives in Colorado Springs, proving the principles of terrestrial resonance and high-power wireless transmission, largely achieved in his own mind, Tesla reluctantly prepared to leave. He departed in January 1900, leaving behind a laboratory filled with extraordinary equipment and a legacy of experiments that still spark debate and wonder. He never returned to Colorado Springs, and his laboratory was eventually dismantled and sold for scrap to pay off his outstanding debts. Though his time there was relatively short, the Colorado Springs experiments were a pivotal period in Tesla's career. They solidified his belief in the feasibility of his global wireless system and provided him with invaluable data and experience. He returned to New York with a renewed sense of purpose, armed with what he believed was the knowledge to turn his grandest dream into reality. He was now ready to embark on his most ambitious, and ultimately most tragic undertaking, the construction of Wardenclyffe Tower, a colossal transmitter on Long Island that he envisioned as the first node in a worldwide wireless communication and power grid. The Maestro of Light was preparing to conduct his ultimate symphony, a symphony that he believed would resonate across the entire planet, bringing light, power, and information to all of humanity. The stage was shifting from the wild, high-altitude plains of Colorado to the bustling financial heart of the world, where he would seek the patronage of one of the most powerful men of the age, J. Pierpont Morgan. Nikola Tesla returned from the high, electrified plains of Colorado in early 1900, and the path ahead was his mind ablaze with dazzling possibilities he had witnessed or perhaps willed into existence. The thunderous discharges of his magnifying transmitter still echoed in his memory, not as mere experiments, but as proof of concept. He was more convinced than ever that he held the key to a global system of wireless communication, and far more audaciously, wireless power transmission. The Earth itself, he believed, could be made to thrum like a perfectly tuned instrument, its latent energy harnessed and broadcast to every corner of the globe. He was no longer just an inventor of motors and lights. He was, in his own eyes, a budding architect of a new global infrastructure, a benevolent titan ready to bestow upon humanity the gift of limitless free energy. To realize this breathtaking vision, he needed a patron, a visionary with deep pockets and a bold spirit, someone who could see beyond the immediate and grasp the world-altering potential of his ideas. His gaze fell upon one of the most formidable figures of the Gilded Age, John Pierpont Morgan, the colossus of American finance, a man whose influence shaped industries and whose wealth could make or break empires. Morgan, a stern and astute businessman, had already invested in Edison's electrical ventures and was a key player in the formation of General Electric. Tesla, with his undeniable genius and the recent triumphs of his AC system still fresh in public memory, approached Morgan with a proposal that was both dazzling and, in retrospect, perhaps strategically ambiguous. Tesla pitched Wardenclyffe primarily as a world telegraphy system, a powerful radio broadcasting station that could transmit messages, stock market quotations, and even images wirelessly across the Atlantic to Europe, and eventually around the world. This was a venture Morgan could understand and appreciate, a potential competitor to the existing transatlantic telegraph cables, a new frontier in communication with immense commercial possibilities. Tesla spoke of sending signals that would be far superior to Marconi's, whose more rudimentary system was just beginning to make headlines. Morgan, intrigued by the prospect of dominating this nascent field, agreed to invest $150,000, a sum equivalent to many millions today, for a 51% stake in the company that would control the patents for this new wireless communication technology. This was a substantial sum, but it was significantly less than what Tesla truly needed for his grander and perhaps deliberately downplayed ambition of global power transmission. With Morgan's initial backing secured, Tesla acquired a 200-acre tract of land in Shoreham, Long Island, a site he named Wardenclyffe. He enlisted the renowned architect Stanford White, a personal friend and admirer, to design the main laboratory building and the iconic tower that would be its centerpiece. The tower was envisioned as a marvel of engineering, a massive mushroom-shaped wooden structure, soaring 187 feet into the sky, topped with a 68-foot diameter hemispherical copper dome. Beneath it, a complex system of iron pipes was to be driven deep into the earth, some extending 300 feet down, to create what Tesla called a grip on the planet, allowing him to pump electrical energy into the terrestrial resonant cavity. The laboratory itself was to be a state-of-the-art facility, equipped to handle the immense energies the tower would generate. Construction began in 1901, and for a time, Wardenclyffe buzzed with activity. Tesla poured all his energy, his passion, and indeed Morgan's money into the project. He was on site frequently, overseeing every detail, his mind racing with the complex calculations and engineering challenges. The tower rose, a strange and imposing sentinel on the Long Island landscape, a symbol of Tesla's audacious dream. He spoke glowingly to the press about its potential, hinting at a future where information and power would flow as freely as the air. He envisioned not just transoceanic messaging, but also precise timekeeping, secure private communications, and eventually, the broadcasting of electrical energy that could power homes, factories, and even vehicles without wires. However, as construction progressed, costs began to escalate far beyond the initial estimates. Tesla, ever the perfectionist and constantly refining his designs, made numerous changes and additions, each one adding to the expense. He was also perhaps underestimating the sheer scale and complexity of what he was attempting. Morgan, a man who demanded results and a clear path to profitability, grew increasingly impatient. He had invested in a wireless telegraphy system, but Tesla seemed to be building something far grander, something whose commercial viability, especially the free energy aspect, was highly questionable from a banker's perspective. The The situation came to head in late 1901 when Guglielmo Marconi, using a simpler and less expensive system, which incidentally relied on several of Tesla's earlier patented principles, a fact that would lead to protracted legal battles, successfully transmitted the first wireless telegraphic signal, the letter S in Morse code, across the Atlantic Ocean. This was a stunning achievement that captured the world's imagination, and more importantly, the attention of investors. Suddenly, Marconi was the hero of wireless, and Tesla's more complex and expensive Wardenclyffe project began to look like an unnecessary extravagance to Morgan. Tesla, realizing he needed more funds to complete Wardenclyffe and make it operational for his full vision, approached Morgan again. He pleaded for additional investment, trying to explain the far greater potential of his system beyond simple telegraphy, hinting at the power transmission capabilities. But Morgan was unmoved. The story goes that when Morgan finally understood that Tesla's ultimate aim was to provide free wireless energy to the world, energy that could not be metered and sold, he balked. "If anyone can draw on the power, where do we put the meter?" Morgan is reputed to have asked. Whether this specific exchange is entirely accurate or apocryphal, the underlying sentiment was clear. Morgan was a capitalist, and free energy was not a business model he was interested in. He refused any further funding. This was a devastating blow for Tesla. Without Morgan's continued support, and with Marconi's star rapidly ascending, other potential investors shied away. Tesla found himself in a desperate financial situation. He had poured everything, including his own remaining funds and future royalties, which he had already sacrificed once for Westinghouse, into Wardenclyffe. He wrote impassioned letters, sought audiences with other financiers, but the doors that had once been open to him now remained firmly shut. The financial panic of 1907 further crippled his ability to raise capital. For several years, Tesla struggled valiantly to keep Wardenclyffe alive. He continued to work on the project with a skeleton staff, hoping for a miracle, a change of fortune. But the debts mounted. The magnificent tower, once a symbol of boundless promise, now stood as a silent, melancholic monument to a dream deferred, and ultimately a dream denied. Creditors closed in. By 1905, most operations at Wardenclyffe had ceased. The laboratory was largely abandoned, the equipment gathering dust. Tesla, heartbroken and financially ruined, was forced to watch his grandest vision crumble before his eyes. The final, ignominious end for Wardenclyffe Tower came during World War I in 1917. The U.S. government, citing security concerns that the prominent tower could be used by German spies as a landmark for submarines or for radio communication, ordered its demolition. The tower was dynamited, its massive structure collapsing into a heap of twisted metal and splintered wood. Tesla, who had by then lost legal ownership due to foreclosure, could only watch from afar as his magnificent creation was reduced to rubble. It was more than just the destruction of a building. It was the symbolic destruction of his most cherished ambition. The failure of Wardenclyffe was a profound turning point in Tesla's life. It marked the end of his era of grand, publicly funded projects. While he would continue to invent and theorize for decades to come, he would never again command the resources or the public platform he once had. The dream of a wireless world powered by free energy remained tantalizingly out of reach, a magnificent obsession that had consumed him and in many ways broken him. The maestro of light had aimed for the stars, but the harsh realities of Wardenclyffe Tower in 1917 was more than just the leveling of a structure to earth. It was the shattering even in this monumental failure, the sheer audacity of his vision, a dream he had nurtured of his ambition, continues to inspire and provoke, a reminder of a man who had once illuminated world fairs and tamed Niagara Falls, who had stood on the precipice of revolutionizing global communication and energy distribution, now found himself increasingly marginalized, his grand visions dismissed as the ramblings of an eccentric, his financial resources all but extinguished. Yet the fire of invention, that insatiable curiosity that had defined him since childhood, could not be entirely quenched, even by such a devastating blow. Though the scale of his endeavors would be forever diminished, Tesla's mind continued to churn, producing a fascinating, if sometimes bewildering, array of ideas and inventions in the decades that followed. The years after Wardenclyffe were marked by a gradual withdrawal from the public eye, at least in terms of large-scale experimental demonstrations. He no longer had the laboratories or the financial backing to build the colossal apparatuses of his youth. Instead, he retreated into the confines of his mind and the relative solitude of various New York hotel rooms, which became his de facto homes and offices for the remainder of his life. He continued to work, often with an almost desperate intensity, filling notebooks with calculations, sketches, and theories. He obtained numerous patents during this period, though many of them struggled to find commercial application or financial backing in a world that was increasingly dominated by large corporations and more conventional approaches to innovation. One of his most significant, yet commercially unfulfilled, inventions from this era was the bladeless turbine or Tesla turbine. Patented in 1913, it was a radical departure from conventional turbine design. Instead of using blades, Tesla's turbine relied on the principle of adhesion and viscosity, where a fluid, steam or gas, flowing over a series of closely spaced smooth disks would cause them to rotate. He envisioned it as a highly efficient and versatile engine, capable of powering everything from pumps to locomotives, even potentially aircraft. He built and tested prototypes, demonstrating impressive power-to-weight ratios. However, the metallurgical limitations of the time, particularly the tendency of the disks to warp at high temperatures and speeds, and the entrenched dominance of bladed turbine technology, prevented it from achieving widespread adoption. It remains a testament to his ability to think outside conventional engineering paradigms, a beautifully simple design, as he described it, that is still studied and admired by engineers today. Tesla also turned his attention to other fields. He conceptualized ideas related to what we would now recognize as vertical takeoff and landing, VTOL aircraft, envisioning flying machines that could ascend and descend without the need for long runways. He explored principles that foreshadowed radar technology, describing methods for detecting distant objects, such as ships, by reflecting radio waves off them. He wrote about harnessing geothermal energy, tapping into the Earth's internal heat, and even pondered the possibilities of utilizing solar energy, ideas that were far ahead of their widespread consideration. As he aged, his public pronouncements sometimes veered into the sensational and the speculative, further complicating his scientific reputation. He spoke of death rays or teleforce weapons, particle beam devices that he claimed could bring down airplanes from hundreds of miles away and melt engines, offering them to various governments during the interwar period and into World War II. He presented these as defensive weapons, capable of creating an impenetrable shield around a nation, thereby, in his view, rendering war obsolete. While the scientific basis and feasibility of these weapons, as he described them, remain highly debatable and largely unproven, they captured the public imagination and contributed to his image as a mysterious, almost mythical figure, a mad scientist in the eyes of some, a misunderstood prophet in the eyes of others. These claims, often made without concrete demonstrations due to lack of funding, were met with skepticism by the scientific establishment and military authorities, though they undoubtedly kept his name in the newspapers. His personal life became increasingly eccentric. He developed an intense, almost obsessive fondness for pigeons, feeding them daily in Bryant Park and often bringing injured ones back to his hotel room to nurse them back to health. He claimed a particularly deep connection with one specific white pigeon, describing an almost telepathic bond and a love for her that was, in his words, as profound as a man's love for a woman. This peculiar affection, while perhaps a source of comfort in his lonely later years, further fueled perceptions of his oddity. His phobias and compulsions also became more pronounced. His aversion to pearl earrings, human hair other than his own, and round objects. His insistence on calculating the cubic contents of his food before eating it. His need to do everything in multiples of 3. His meticulous hygiene rituals. He lived a solitary existence despite his earlier social prominence, often dining alone in the grand hotels where he resided, his tall, gaunt figure a familiar yet enigmatic presence. Financially, he was perpetually precarious. The man who had once torn up a contract for billions in royalties now struggled to pay his hotel bills. He often relied on the quiet generosity of friends or former associates, and occasionally received modest stipends or consulting fees. Westinghouse Electric, in recognition of his past contributions, provided him with a small monthly pension in his later years, which helped him maintain a semblance of dignity. Yet he often lived on the edge of poverty, his once grand ambitions reduced to ideas scribbled on hotel stationery. Despite the hardships and the fading limelight, Tesla never lost his intellectual curiosity or his belief in the power of science to improve the human condition. He continued to follow scientific developments, offering his own often unorthodox interpretations and critiques. He held press conferences on his birthdays, which became somewhat ritualized events where he would announce his latest, often unproven discoveries, or make predictions about the future of technology. These pronouncements were a mixed bag. Some were remarkably prescient, anticipating developments in robotics, wireless communication, and even artificial intelligence. Others were more outlandish and unsubstantiated. The world had, in many ways, moved on. The electrical age he had helped usher in was now dominated by giant corporations, and the lone, visionary inventor was becoming an anachronism. His nemesis, Thomas Edison, had become an American icon, celebrated for his practical inventions and business acumen. Marconi was lauded as the father of radio despite Tesla's earlier foundational patents. A Supreme Court ruling in 1943, shortly after Tesla's death, would eventually uphold Tesla's prior radio patents, but it was too late for him to benefit. Tesla, by contrast, faded into relative obscurity, a figure more of legend and rumor than of recognized contemporary achievement. Yet even in his decline, there was a certain tragic grandeur to Nikola Tesla. He was a man out of time, a mind that soared too far, too fast for the world to keep pace. He had envisioned a future of clean, abundant energy, of global interconnectedness, of peace through technological supremacy. He had dared to dream on a planetary scale, and though he had stumbled and fallen, the sheer audacity of that dream, the unwavering brilliance of his intellect, and the profound impact of his realized inventions ensured that his light, though dimmed for a time, would never be truly extinguished. He was a complex, contradictory figure, a brilliant scientist and a flamboyant showman, a humanitarian idealist and a sometimes impractical dreamer, a disciplined intellect. The final years of Nikola Tesla's life unfolded in the hushed confines of hotel rooms. But above all, he was a relentless innovator, a stark contrast to the crackling compositions in electricity and the thunderous applause of his earlier triumphs. Through our modern world. The New Yorker hotel became his last sanctuary, a place where the aging titan, now a gaunt and solitary figure, continued his mental peregrinations, even as his physical world shrank. The roar of Niagara, the dazzling spectacle of the Chicago World's Fair, the audacious ambition of Wardenclyffe, these were now echoes in the corridors of memory. Yet even in these twilight years, his mind, though perhaps more prone to flights of fancy, remained restlessly active. He continued to feed his beloved pigeons, his feathered friends, finding in their gentle company a solace that the human world, with its commercial imperatives and often short-sighted pragmatism, had increasingly denied him. He still held his annual birthday press conferences, occasions that allowed him a fleeting return to the public stage. Journalists would gather, drawn by the enduring mystique of the man who had once promised to light the world wirelessly. He would make pronouncements, some remarkably insightful, others tinged with the unproven and the fantastical. He spoke of new forms of energy, of interplanetary communication, of defensive weapons that could end all wars. These were the last flickers of a once blazing intellect, sometimes illuminating, sometimes bewildering, but always uniquely Tesla. He was a man who refused to stop dreaming, even when the world seemed to have stopped listening. His health, never robust and often strained by his ascetic lifestyle and relentless work habits, began to fail more noticeably. He had outlived most of his contemporaries, including his great rival Edison and his early patron Westinghouse. He had witnessed two devastating world wars, conflicts that stood in stark contrast to his idealistic visions of a future united and empowered by benevolent technology. The world he had helped to shape was now grappling with forces and complexities that even his far-reaching mind might have struggled to fully comprehend. On January 7, 1943, at the age of 86, Nikola Tesla died alone in his room, number 3327 on the 33rd floor of the New Yorker Hotel. He was found by a hotel maid, Alice Monahan, who had disregarded the "Do Not Disturb" sign he had placed on his door 2 days prior. The official cause of death was coronary thrombosis, a peaceful end for a man whose life had been anything but. His passing, in the midst of a world consumed by global conflict, initially received relatively modest attention, certainly not the global mourning that might have accompanied the death of an Edison. However, the circumstances surrounding his death and its immediate aftermath added another layer to the Tesla mystique. Within hours of his body being discovered, representatives from the U.S. government's Office of Alien Property Custodian, along with FBI agents, reportedly entered his room and seized all his belongings, including his numerous papers, notebooks, and research materials. This swift action fueled decades of speculation and conspiracy theories. What secrets did Tesla's papers hold? Were there designs for death rays or other advanced technologies that the government wanted to secure or perhaps suppress? While many of his papers were eventually declassified and released, some remain missing or their contents debated, ensuring that Tesla's legacy would forever be intertwined with an aura of mystery and intrigue. His funeral service was held a few days later at the Cathedral of St. John the Divine in New York City, a grand edifice for a man who had lived his final years in such modest circumstances. It was attended by over 2,000 people, including scientists, engineers, diplomats, and many Nobel laureates, a testament to the profound respect he still commanded within the scientific community, even if his broader public fame had waned. His body was later cremated, and his ashes are now housed in a gold-plated sphere, his favorite shape, at the Nikola Tesla Museum in Belgrade, Serbia, a final resting place in the land of his ancestors. For many years after his death, Nikola Tesla remained a somewhat enigmatic and often overlooked figure in the popular narrative of scientific progress. While his alternating current system formed the invisible backbone of modern civilization, powering virtually every aspect of daily life, his name was not always readily associated with it in the public consciousness. Textbooks often gave scant mention to his contributions, focusing more on Edison's more tangible and commercially successful inventions, or Marconi's triumph in radio. Tesla, the visionary idealist who often prioritized scientific advancement over personal wealth and who dared to dream of free energy for all, didn't fit neatly into the conventional narratives of inventor entrepreneurs. But slowly, inexorably, a renaissance of interest in Nikola Tesla began. Researchers, writers, and a new generation of engineers and innovators started to rediscover the true breadth and depth of his genius. His patents were re-examined, his writings scrutinized, his life story retold. The internet age, with its ability to disseminate information and challenge established narratives, played a significant role in this resurgence. People were captivated by the story of this brilliant, eccentric, and ultimately tragic figure who seemed to have been cheated by fate, by powerful rivals, and by a world not yet ready for his most audacious visions. Today, Nikola Tesla's name is synonymous with innovation, with visionary thinking, and with the cutting edge of technology. The electric car company that bears his name has become a global phenomenon, a fitting tribute to the man who championed electric power over a century ago. His image, once relegated to the footnotes of history, now adorns t-shirts, posters, and countless online tributes. He has become a cultural icon, a symbol of misunderstood genius, a patron saint for inventors, dreamers, and those who dare to challenge the status quo. His scientific contributions are now more widely recognized and celebrated. The AC polyphase system is understood as one of the most profound and impactful inventions in human history. His pioneering work in radio, robotics, remote control, high-frequency currents, and countless other areas laid the groundwork for many of the technologies that define our modern era. Even his more speculative ideas, from wireless power transmission to directed energy, continue to inspire research and debate. He was not just an inventor of devices, he was a fundamental thinker about energy and its relationship to the universe, a man who sought to unlock nature's deepest secrets for the betterment of humanity. Nikola Tesla's life was a symphony of light and shadow, of triumphant breakthroughs and heartbreaking failures, of soaring ambition and profound loneliness. He was a man born in a lightning storm, who spent his life chasing lightning, both literal and metaphorical. He gave the world the alternating current that powers its cities, the radio principles that connect its people, and a vision of a future brimming with possibilities. He may not have achieved his ultimate dream of free, wireless energy for all, but he ignited a spark in the human imagination that continues to burn brightly. He taught us that the greatest limitations are often not those of science, but those of vision, of courage, and of the willingness to pursue the seemingly impossible. He was, as his mother had prophesied on that stormy night of his birth, truly a child of light. And though his own earthly light was extinguished in a quiet hotel room, the brilliance he unleashed upon the world continues to illuminate our path, a lasting testament to the power of one extraordinary mind to electrify the future. Nikola Tesla, the maestro of light, the architect of the modern age, remains an enduring inspiration, a reminder that the grandest dreams are those that seek to elevate us all. His legacy is not just in the technologies he created, but in the audacious spirit of inquiry and the boundless human potential he embodied.